Welcome back to the Liorti Resorty here in Florida for another episode of State of My Art podcast. Oh my God, it's hot. Oh my God, it's hot. I am your tall, friendly Canadian host, Mike Liorti. Thank you so much for joining me. On this week's episode of State of My Art podcast, I chat with a band from Manchester, United Kingdom, We the North. And no, fellow Toronto Raptor fans, they did not steal our slogan. We get into a little bit of that on this episode, as well as how the band came to be, their new single coming out November 27th, and some fun comparing of continents. Why is it so hot? My conversation with We the North happened on November 6th, 2020. All right, we are really doing it. Welcome to the show, We the North over in the UK. We have Ryan, Josh, and Danny. Welcome to the show, you guys. Thank you for taking the time to be on.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you guys, too. We've never met. You guys found out about this podcast somehow. How did you find out about the podcast?
Just searching for Instagram. Honestly, it just popped up and I was like, oh, what's that? And just opened it up, had a look and looked into it.
Awesome. Well, that gives me a lot of hope. That makes me feel like I must be finally hashtagging properly or something. Because I've been doing a little bit of marketing research, which is not like me. I'm usually terrible with this kind of stuff. But I'm glad you guys found it. And it's cool to have a band from a completely different continent on the show. So thank you guys for being on, and congrats on the new single, which is going to be out by the time this podcast comes out. Thanks for sending it. Sounds good.
Thank you. That's fun.
And I also saw you guys have new t-shirts and a new logo. Congrats on that. It looks awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you guys come up with that logo, that tag? Because I know that's a really big roadblock usually for a lot of bands. Is like, what is going to be our tag, our brand logo for here until possibly forever?
Possibly, as long as no one comes in and sues us for it. Do you want me to take this?
I'll do it if you want. So we started off, basically we set up a Facebook page and things like that when the band first got going. We got a logo out and we just did something sort of quick, relatively simple. I think you made it using an app on your phone, didn't you?
A series of free apps that let me use free edits.
But yeah, we'd had this logo for quite a few years. Nothing wrong with it, we liked it. But basically, I don't know how much you know about the history of the band, but Ryan joined recently, our new drummer. We sort of thought, new drummer, new single going out, let's change the logo up a bit. We wanted to go for something a bit simpler, which I think you can see from the new logo. It's fairly straightforward, sticks out, it's not overly complicated. Just went from there, and that's what we ended up with.
Wow, yeah, it does look very simple and memorable, and suits your guys' hard rock sound. And it's crazy that you guys made it yourselves with the free apps that exist out there. I guess that's like a common thing now, but I remember we had to first we were hiring people to design the first Rosedale logos, and it usually just kind of came with the EP artwork. We'd be like, we want a plane, or our MySpace design, when you could have when you can hire people to design your MySpace page and they would code it all out. And then the last time I designed a logo, I just kind of held a competition. I just made a road sign, an American highway road sign, and just the worst drawing. I'm the worst visual artist you'll ever meet. I just got a pen and made a road sign with Rosedale, RD as the number of the highway sign, and I posted that up on Facebook and just said, if anybody can make a nice looking version of this graphic, of this logo, you'll win $50. That's how I essentially hired someone. It was like the Fiverr way before Fiverr existed.
That's good, that. And we've got, my girlfriend does a lot of our, like, logo. She did the t-shirt design for this new t-shirt that we've done, because I don't think there's a single one of us that's very good with visually putting things down. I couldn't even sketch any form of idea of what I wanted, so I just sort of just got like, you've heard us and watched near enough every single gig, you tell us what we should have.
That's awesome.
I did do graphic design. But I don't like doing it anymore, so that's why I didn't really get involved. And being the newbie in the band, I wasn't really sure.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm in the band now, let me design all your graphics. Hey, but that's helpful.
Nah, it's not going to go that way.
That's awesome that your girlfriend, Josh, is able to do that. And she seems like a super supportive girlfriend. I saw in your guys' press release that she's kind of the meaning behind the new single, in that she inspired you to keep playing music and motivated you to stay on it, which is what girlfriends, significant others are for. So that's awesome that you have a support base like that. For all of you guys, that's really beneficial.
Yeah, I think every one of our girlfriends are actually really supportive of it. Like, I've been in relationships before where they've just been like, you're going to practice again, what about me? And this one, she's like trying to shoo me out to make sure that we're actually doing like good as a band. So it is really good. Like you mentioned, this song is like particularly about my girlfriend. And there was a time when we had our old drummer where I was just starting to just lose momentum and couldn't really get into the swing of things anymore, and coming to practice was becoming tedious. And my girlfriend just sat me down and was just like, if you don't do this, what else will you do with your life? What will you be able to say to your kids in the future? Look at this, I did this. And they'll be like, oh yeah, our dad made that. And I just sort of sat there and like, yeah, without music, I'm a very boring person. And she sort of picked me up. She actually bought most of my equipment as well, because I moved over. I was originally a rhythm guitarist, and we could not find a bassist when our bassist left, so I moved over to play bass, but I could not afford to do it. So you actually paid for my first bass.
Yeah.
Really cheap £90 bass that like did the job, but like everything after that, my girlfriend just gone, here it is, go and do what you do. So honestly, I wouldn't know where I'd be without that kind of support from her.
That's really awesome. I love hearing stuff like that. Yeah, because switching over to bass is not a cheap instrument. The bass amp is probably the most expensive amp in a band's gear list, depending on what the drummer has.
The drummers is more expensive.
Yeah. Cymbals can rack up real quick.
You're telling me. It's just cymbals and add-ons now, but yeah, it is expensive. It's probably the most expensive part of being in a band. I wish I had played drums though. I should have gone with like guitars. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it all depends on how excessive you want to go with it. Like, once you start getting into like getting a lighting rig, it's like, oh man, I could afford such a good amp for the price that I paid for these lights.
Yeah, definitely.
How long have you guys been at it? How long has We the North been a band?
6, maybe 7 years now?
2014, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, a real long time. Like I said, we started off as a 4-piece and very quickly became a 3-piece, but for like a good period of time we were just practicing making a big covers set, because at the time people, like the music scene around here was, we want a covers band to come in, that's the only way we'll pay you. If you come in and do an original set, we won't pay you. So we were trying to make this 2-hour long cover set, and just throw in a few of our own within that and hoping that they never noticed, which they didn't, to be fair. We never got in trouble for playing songs they didn't recognise. But yeah, it was when we released the EP was when we actually just started completely focusing on our own stuff, and that's like 2 years ago in March, something like that.
Yeah, it will be.
So there's a long period of time, that 4 years, where we were actually not doing gigs. We were completely static and just coming in the room and just enjoying it, playing songs. It was it took a while for us to actually get up and going as an originals band.
That's cool. So you guys were a cover band the first few years, and then you were like, all right, let's actually try and make some originals, which I think is a kind of old school way, and it makes total sense that it was that way. Like the Beatles were originally a cover band, and I can't remember what podcast or YouTube video I literally just watched like yesterday, and it was saying like, hey, start as a cover band, master your instrument. I think it was Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters that was saying that for any band just starting out, learn as many covers as you can, play those covers, be a cover band, make some money being a cover band, which is also a really good way of doing it. And then before long, you're going to have a really good grasp on how to write great hits, right? Because you've been covering them for so long. So good on you guys for taking that approach, because my upbringing was completely different than the Beatles and all these bands that started as cover bands. I wanted to, before I even learned any cover songs with some of my friends when I was just starting out, I was like, here's some songs I wrote. We have to get these together. And I mean, I already had an understanding of what the drums wanted to be like because I had learned a bunch of covers on my own and the drummer had learned a bunch of covers on his own. But, you know, we would only hash out 2 minutes of our favorite cover song just for fun. It wasn't really like educational at all or for the money at all. But come to think of it, like eventually we became half covers, half originals just to fill 3 hours of a bar gig, right? So I guess everybody does. It's inevitable to go through that stage as a band.
Yeah, it did like help us like just blend together, because I knew the old drummer and I knew Danny separately, but those two didn't know each other. So It was a good time where we weren't like barking orders of how songs should go to each other. It was like, we know how this song goes because someone else wrote it. So it helped that section gel. As for Ryan coming in, he's just sort of had to jump in with originals and hit the ground running, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which I prefer, to be fair.
So Ryan, when did you join the band?
It was the beginning of this year, wasn't it? I was in
February, I think.
Yeah, but we didn't announce it until like April, did we? But we were speaking towards the back end of last year. But there's a website called Join My Band.
Oh, really?
And, and we contacted each other on that, didn't we? Like back end of last year, and then I forgot my password and just never really logged into it again. But I'd already checked them out on Facebook before I lost it all. And then I think the start of this year, I got back in touch with him, and then just cracked on from there, really.
That's cool. Is that just like a UK website, or is that everywhere and you just sort of...
I don't know,
I think
it's an American version.
I think it's just UK.
Yeah.
Oh, really? What a brilliant idea. Join my band.
Yeah, there's to be honest though, there's like probably 1% of bands that go through that actually find someone on there, because there's so many time wasters.
And it doesn't delete old adverts either, does it?
No.
It's just like, oh, there's a drummer available from 4 years ago.
But hey, that's really helpful for, I think, a lot of kids and musicians that want to join a band, is like, try and check out that website. Even if you at least find bands that post it, you can do what Ryan did and search that band on Facebook or Instagram and DM them there and say, hey, I'll join your band. I saw you on Join My Band, but I figured I'd message you here.
Yeah, it is good. I think it works really well in like the UK, especially because all the towns are actually really close together. So if there's an American version, I imagine that the town over sometimes is actually quite a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really close together there. I toured there about 3.5 years ago. And yeah, each drive was only like an hour to 2 hours. It was kind of nice. Where are you guys in the UK?
We're in Greater Manchester, so yeah, just around Manchester, just outside.
Nice. Big soccer town. Football, as you guys call it.
It's part of where the name come from, that, isn't it? Because I used to work in like a pharmacy packing place with someone who was a Tottenham fan, and I'm a Tottenham fan, and he was obsessed with like history and civil wars especially, and I think it was the American Civil War he was talking about once, where he said that there was a family where the brother lived in the south but 2 older brothers lived in the north, and they basically went to war against each other, and one of them was basically in charge of a group of people, and to inspire people he started off his speech saying "We the North." Now these two being United fans in the north and Tottenham being in the south, that worked really well. So that's where that came from. The old drummer was a United fan as well, so Ryan's just sort of like not messed that name up by being a Manchester United fan.
That is interesting. Yeah. I didn't want to be the interviewer asking, so where did you guys get your name? But I'm glad that that's an interesting story. And for me, what like struck my interest is when you guys followed me on Instagram, I was like, "We the North, is that something to do with the Toronto Raptors?" Because I'm from Toronto and I'm a huge Raptor fan. So I looked into it and it said a band from the UK. I was like, "Did you guys know your name is like the Toronto Raptors slogan?"
We didn't realise until after we'd already set up all our accounts that it was associated with Toronto Raptors. I can't remember how we figured it out. I think we did a hashtag.
No, I found out because my grandpa found a picture of Richard Branson wearing a t-shirt saying "We the North" at a basketball game, and he was like, "Richard Branson's wearing one of your t-shirts." I was like, "It's absolutely not." So I just looked at where he got that from. He was like, "He's at a Toronto Raptors game," and then went on the website and the slogan was there, "We the North." I was like, "We're going to get sued for this." We haven't had any problems, but yeah. At first, my grandpa thought we'd made it, and it wasn't. It wasn't the case.
That's so funny. At least it's just a slogan, though. Like I feel like you guys will get away with that. They're not going to come after you for naming your band after their slogan, as they might perceive it. But band names come up a lot on this podcast, apparently. So maybe mostly because I've been doing so much research on band names and like how to pick the right one, because I'm in the middle of like a rebrand, renaming. Because I got in quite a bit of trouble for using the name Rosedale, and it's just a big inconvenience because I'm not nearly the first thing that comes up when you search Rosedale on even like bands in town and obviously Google. So I made the mistake of picking a popular name that I thought, oh, this is great, free advertising. Rosedale's everywhere. But for you guys, it's actually a really good, convenient free advertising to Toronto and NBA fans, because they're like, oh, we of the North, I'll never forget that. That's the Raptors slogan.
Yeah, it just means we can't tour in Canada.
Honestly, though, that's what I mean. I feel like if you toured in Canada, no one's going to come after you for using that name. That just happens to be their slogan. It's just a slogan. And, you know, you're a band from the UK. It's not like you stole a band from Canada's name. So I think you're good.
I think there's a point where we released the EP where you sent a screenshot of the Spotify artists and where they're getting the listens from. And I was like, right, let's see all these fans we've gained from our very first release. UK was second and Canada was first, and we couldn't figure that out either. And it's like, oh, that's in Canada, right? Yeah.
Great, yeah. See, you're getting free listens from it. That's awesome. So I checked out your guys' video as well, where Josh is just kind of losing his mind in his bedroom. And I encourage everyone to check that video out because it's unique. I've never seen anyone do that. But it seems like it was easy to make. What, did you just use your camera and add some effects after to it?
So I set the camera up just as it was going dark here, as I'm a big fan of UFC, so I have to stay up to watch that when it's on in America's time. Yeah. So it was a big period of time where it was about 5 hours where I just sat in a room. I just thought I'll wait and I'll film myself and then I'll just cut and paste this all together. But I did it all on my phone because I don't know anyone that can make videos or anything like that. So it was just one of those things that we released a single and the more that I looked into how to actually release songs properly, because we have no form of management at all like that. So when I was looking into it, I decided music video is very vital to do. So even if it's a rubbish video, just do it, because it'll push yourself on YouTube. So I was like, okay, I'll try and do this myself. We were stuck in a lockdown because COVID had just kicked up. So it was literally like, I've got to come up with something, and going insane in a room was the only thing that I could come up with that I thought I could do this myself. But no, it was just a lot of cutting and pasting into the one file that I could use on my phone, and then having to put my face really close to it to see how it looked.
Well done. Using the tools that you have to make a relevant video that will get your band more discovered online. Like that's what it's all about. You guys seem to have a good grasp of that, like figuring it out on your own and getting all of the online presence categories covered. Like your press release is super pro for this new single you guys have coming out, and yeah, it just looks like you guys are doing the DIY thing and doing your best. So good on you.
Yeah, nice one. It's something you just have to pick up, because I'm not sure what it's like over there, but it's quite difficult to get on like management companies without having to pay for them. Mm-hmm. Or you don't get record labels much here either, and if you do, it's just to record. So you either need to pay someone to run your band or learn how to do it yourself. So between us all, we all have our own roles. And Ryan's picking up roles, but Danny basically runs our social media. I like run backgrounds, usually look for gigs as well when they're actually able to run.
I play the drums.
Ryan plays the drums. But we're going to start like separating that out evenly between us. We can do better work with the actual focus thing we're doing, instead of just like some of us focusing on that and doing a decent job. We could have everything looking really good, everything sounding really good. So yeah, that's how we'll go forward until someone wants to take that off our hands.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I found that when I toured in the UK as well, that that it's actually a lot. It's very similar to Canada and America in that the progression of being in a band has turned into a lot of, I mean, when you're just starting out, pay to play, pay to have, press. Even bands on labels will pay to have their own press, because, the deal doesn't come with anything like that. So do you guys hire a publicist on your own, or do you just sort of take care of it yourselves?
I sort of rely on my girlfriend a little bit with that as well, because she works for a marketing agency. So she started off doing in a PR agency. So I sit down and I go, I've written a press release. What does it look like? Tell me what it looks like, and she'll just backspace the entire thing and then start from scratch.
Wow.
She's like, you need to do the what, who, where, why. You've not done a single thing. You've said you're a band and you've got a single. I was like, you do it then.
She's just coming in clutch all over the board, apparently.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's awesome. So what's it like over there right now? Is it still pretty shut down, no live music, or are you guys getting back into it?
No, we just started another lockdown, another month-long lockdown. So we've been out of it for 3 months now, haven't we? Coming out of it, but then they've just shut everything down. So there's nothing open bar, essential shops and takeaways. Essentially, all the pubs are shut. There's nothing. Venues are shut, so there's nowhere we can play other than in here, really.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's the when we weren't in a lockdown and we're just in a relaxed system. Even then, there was no event spaces really allowed to operate because they were all too small. So you would get Manchester Arena held a gig, but it could only have 100 people in, where it can usually have tens of thousands in. So us getting into places was quite difficult. But we did an interview recently to go along with a live stream they're doing, and Ryan mentions that Ryan had only just joined the band at that point, so this has come for us at a good time because it means we can focus on actually being good instead of rushing to get good for a gig that's in a couple of weeks. So we've just had all this time, we like getting Ryan up to speed and now actually taking that steps further, and we're working on like new music to take us into a newer and better sound that's more thought out than the EP was. So it's come at a good time, but the when Ryan says it's a month long, this new lockdown, it might actually be longer, and longer. It's I honestly feel like it's not being handled very well here. Like, it's not being handled terribly, but there's things that they're doing, which I just think is really strange. But I don't study diseases or pandemics, so I don't really know how it works.
Yeah, I feel the same way. In Canada, they started another month-long lockdown. No hockey arenas, no indoor activities. So a lot of people are really bummed out about that. And when I was there, I'm actually in Florida right now at my parents' place down here, just hanging out with my girlfriend. And it's nice because a lot more things are open down here, maybe because of the weather or maybe because people just care a little less. But I felt the same way in the midst of a lockdown where it was like, why is this allowed but that's not allowed? And it just, a lot of things didn't really make sense. But yeah, I'm no expert either. It's just, as a musician, it's like, wow, we've actually entered a time where music is illegal. I never thought I'd see the day. I used to be a skateboarder when I was a kid and get in all sorts of trouble for skateboarding where I wasn't allowed, and it was like, man, I can't believe something like skateboarding's illegal. And now it's 2020, and the entire year music has been illegal, and it's just like, I can't believe it.
It's one of the biggest industries that's been hit here. So even when like all this is over and done with, the venues have been closing, like just dropping off the map constantly. So I'm not sure what's going to be left. There's been bits of support for the government, but they've not been enough, and they've been in the wrong places as well. So when I've looked into it, instead of supporting the smaller venues, they've actually gone, we're going to give £65 million to like live events, but then you'll see like 80% of that have gone to theatres, and those theatres usually have hotels. That's a second revenue stream. The hotels are staying open. So it's like, what that money is great, but it's going in the wrong places, and that's tends to be what happened, and that's why the venues start closing here. So that is a worry for us when we do go out, like, because we're not massively known around Manchester or England. We've not really left the northwest of the country before, so when we go out, we're trying to come up with plans, like with singles that will be ready to launch when it's all over and things like that, just so we'll stand out that little bit more instead of us just being a band that's ready to play.
Yeah, it kind of lights a fire for everybody. And that's a really good point. Like, it's not really a surprise either that the big theaters with the hotels are able to access that government funding, yet the little, basically living paycheck to paycheck venues that bands like us are constantly trying to knock on their door to get in aren't getting any government funding, and they're going to sink fast and hard, and it's kind of probably to be expected from the government. And it's just so unfortunate that a scene that was already really struggling, live music venues, 300 cap and below, were already really struggling to keep their doors open. I'm sure over there, and definitely here in North America, I can't imagine what it's going to look like once everything does go back to even kind of normal and there's shows again. It's going to be like dog eat dog for bands to get in these, whatever's left of these venues. And there's going to have to be some sort of a new plan to get people to check out your music. And it's good that you guys are doing live streams in the meantime and releasing singles. So keep at that, and fingers crossed that this is over soon and we still have a means to play live shows and get people out to them and tour. It's going to be tough.
Yeah,
It really is.
But seems like you guys got a good handle on it, and like you said, it's never been a better time to get a new member up to speed, because there's nothing worse than booking a show, getting your drummer as close as you can to like 5 or 6 songs for a set, and then it's like, oh man, I wish we could have been as ready as we are now at the next show.
Yeah, I'm still not ready for our next show.
Yeah, now it's gonna feel like your first show with your new drummer is gonna be like, he's been in the band for a year.
Yeah, it's going to be really strange because I'll probably forget to announce he's a new drummer. And we'll be like, who's that guy?
Yeah.
Because none of the people that come and watch us will have met you before, because we're not in the like same group of friends at all. Like, yeah, we haven't had time to like mingle or anything like that. So the people that do usually come and see us, like, they'll be aware that Ryan's new, but they'll just be like, he's there. After years of this myth, he's there.
He actually exists.
Yeah.
Have you been playing drums, Ryan, in the live streams, or have the live streams been more just like acoustic?
No, I've played in both of them, yeah.
Cool.
So I know the set, and I know our songs, but there's a couple that I'm not too sure about that we might be playing, or we have played, whatever this goes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm up to speed with most of them, but it's been good to not feel the pressure on it, to be honest, because I don't want to turn up and be throwing sticks everywhere and not really know when the breakdown is or when to even come in. But I'm alright with that now.
Allow me to quickly interject here. This podcast is brought to you by the most amazing musician wellness company, Vocalese. Check out the famous Vocalese throat spray, as well as all their other all-natural products, and get 15% off your order by using this link right here. Now let's get back to chatting with We the North. Are you guys there in your rehearsal space right now, or where do you guys rehearse?
We're in the space we record, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we rehearse in a big sort of mill that's got a recording studio attached to it. So we're in the actual recording studio at the moment, but it's all linked together. So
you guys rehearse like next door to that room?
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
And do the live stream from here as well. They're a multi-operational facility.
Yeah, no, that's awesome that you guys have something like that. Do you guys all live pretty close to that facility?
I do.
Yeah.
I live about 10 minutes away, but yeah, these two live a bit further.
Which is good because you're the only one without like a form of transport. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I live like further east, but it's not too far. It takes me about an hour to get here, which isn't bad. But I'm always coming here in like rush hour traffic as well. So when I'm going home, it takes me like 30 minutes.
I reckon we live about the same distance, just in opposite directions.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of traffic there in Manchester then?
Yeah, only because it's so small. Like, because I imagine if, say, it was like, I don't know, in Chicago or something like that, it wouldn't be like mad traffic. But because it's so small and the roads are so narrow everywhere, it's just a pain in the ass, man.
Yeah, that's like Toronto.
Yeah.
There's not nearly enough highway roads for how many people live in that tiny little almost island city.
And because it's so small, the road layouts are just stupid.
Yeah, when we toured in the UK, luckily we hired a driver, Kaz, and when I was watching him drive, I was like, I would have no idea what I'm doing on these roads. They're so different. I mean, not only are you driving on the other side, but it's like they're so narrow and winding, and I'm like, whoa, what are you about to do right now? He's like, oh no, this is how the road works.
Why are you going around the roundabout the wrong way? No, it's right, it's fine, mate.
Right, it's freaking me out.
And if you're in America, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to do a show in like the next town, and then you've got to drive for like fucking 6 hours.
Yeah, well, on the West Coast, it can be like that. East Coast America, there's a lot of markets really close together.
Yeah.
But Canada, if you want to just tour Canada, if you don't have a work permit, some of your drives are like 30 hours just to get from like Saskatchewan to Alberta shows. Yeah. I've never done it. I'll at least go down and then pop up in like British Columbia and then head down the West Coast. But
I'm never going to complain about travelling again.
I know.
I can't complain ever. That's just ridiculous. 30 hours to get from one place to another.
yeah, and you have to be really careful, especially if you're hauling a trailer, that you have enough gas to get to some of the gas stations, because there won't be a gas station for like 500 miles sometimes.
What?
It's like, well, we can't even get there on one tank. And then you finally get to that station in the middle of nowhere, and the price is like double what it should be. So
500 miles from here would get us to France.
Actually,
yeah,
I'm back.
Yeah, probably I'm back.
Do you branch out of Manchester quite a bit, or how far have you guys played outside of your hometown?
I've played Liverpool. That's as far as I've gone.
How far is that?
It's about 40-minute drive, is it?
Yeah.
maybe just an hour, maybe, depending on traffic.
Not that far.
It's not far at
It's
all.
like the next town, like the next big city from here, really, I would say, is it?
Yeah,
Kind of,
definitely.
isn't it? Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, that's another frustrating thing. You guys are like on the verge of releasing singles and EPs, and you want to get out into these other markets, and now not only are they shut down, but it's going to be harder than ever to email venues and be like, hey, we've never played that town before, but can we have this date? But I guess you'll have to do some like show swapping with other bands. Like, hey, we'll bring you to Manchester if we can get a London show or whatever.
Yeah, we've discussed that once before, haven't we? Because we haven't branched out of Manchester before now, and it's definitely something as like this 3-piece we definitely want to do. I think we've played everywhere minus a few venues in the city which are worth playing at our level, so we need to really be branching out and seeking new fans as well. So Gig Swap was definitely the one suggested, because I think the people that like promote in London want you to pay to come down, and then would be like, we'll cover like £20 of whatever your costs are. It's like, it costs me more than £20 to get there, which sometimes you do take, and you can like get by doing that, especially if you're trying to make a name for yourself. But it is probably better to do the gig swaps, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a lot of places as well, they want you to buy all the tickets for the gig. So it's like they're asking us to travel down to London, pay for that, buy all the tickets. We're going to have to pay for accommodation and things like that, or sleep in the car.
And there's no guarantee that you even sell
Exactly.
any ticket.
Yeah, no
because it's so
guarantee
far
we'll sell
away.
any tickets. No guarantee people will turn up. So it's pretty difficult to do. But yeah, like we say, the gig swap things are a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean by it's actually pretty similar over there than it is to here. Because any major city, New York City, Toronto, Boston, Chicago, if you're an out-of-town band and you've never played there before, chances are you're going to be going to the pay-to-play promoters. You're going to have to like buy tickets up front. You're lucky if you get any gas money or any percentage of those tickets back. And you're basically playing for exposure, which might be no exposure because the other band's friends left after their set and you're just playing to an empty room. So it's tough. And I wish you the best with all that. Sometimes it's worth it. Like, you don't hear many bands say that, but sometimes it works out, or sometimes, like, we used to play with this one promotional company called Hotbox, and it was essentially a showcase for these A&R label guys that didn't care to be there. They were getting paid to be there, and they would watch your set, and everybody sold as many tickets as they could so that you have a good crowd, and the A&R guys are impressed. And we were playing downtown every few months at this point, and so we had a bit of a following. And we're like, well, we could play at the dive bar and maybe get 40, 50 friends out. But we're only going to get paid $100. Like, is that even worth it for us at that point? Or we could buy 100 tickets from this promotion company at a lower rate, because most bands are buying 50. If we're buying 100, they would give us like, all right, $2 a ticket. So we would buy 100 tickets for $200, $300 and sell them at $10, even though the face value was 15, and our fans would feel like they were getting a good deal, which they were. For $10, you get to go to the Opera House, which is a big venue in Toronto, bigger than we would normally play, with a better sound system than anywhere we'd play. And our fans thought, wow, we're seeing Rosedale at the Opera House. This is really great. And the A&R guys were impressed. So if you're in a position to make it make sense, then it is worth the drive. And we actually ended up making like $200-$300 on those shows, which was huge for us at the time. That would pay for our t-shirts, that would pay for our merch, and we would sell a lot of merch there to new fans, and we would get the best time slot because we just bought 100 tickets up front. Like, the promoter loved that. So even though there was 12 bands on the bill, we were playing the 10 o'clock slot, and that was great for us. So I try to encourage bands to not just like run away from the thing that everybody says is poisonous for your band. Don't play pay to play. Some of the best shows I've played were pay to play, whereas sometimes I've done the show swap and I've brought bands to Toronto to play to a good crowd, or to whatever market I'm thriving in to play to a good crowd, and then I go play their market and it's like their worst show in 5 years, and they're like, oh, I don't know what happened, no one showed up today. It's like, man, like, why is this the encouraged method of playing out of town shows? So you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes you just got to roll the dice and rent the venue. I've done that a bunch too. Rented the venue that was like $400 in Albuquerque. That, I would never expect that to be a good idea. But you get the right locals on the bill, and they're like, oh, sweet, yeah, we love playing that venue. Sure, we'll play that venue. And then I'm like, well, are you cool with selling tickets? I'll give you a better rate. I'll make sure you get half the money of the ticket you're selling. And they're like, oh, that's awesome. We're getting paid to play at that venue? That never happens. And so I've kind of set myself up to be almost a pay-to-play touring promotion act as well, which I hated. It's a lot of work that I hate doing, especially. But the bands were happier than ever because they were like, wow, we're getting paid $100 for, just bringing 20, 30 of our friends out to a show. That's huge for us. And I'm like, good. I'm glad that that's helping you, because it's helping me more than to play to their 30 people. So, yeah, I miss those days as well. As much as I hated being the promoter, I miss when I can, tour around and make more than gas money, and help other bands out. That's kind of why I started this podcast too, is to help new bands that people may not have heard about. I never thought that I'd have a band from UK on, but this is really cool. Hopefully people check out your band now and they're like, oh yeah, We the North. Hey guys, come to Boston or whatever.
I'm on my way.
I wanted to ask too, how far are you guys from London, England?
About 200 miles.
How far is Manchester? 200 miles?
Yeah. It's not really far, it's just difficult to get to.
Yeah.
No, that is far. That's a stretch.
Yeah.
And what is the market that you'd like to get into next? What's like 50 miles away?
Probably it's like
Liverpool,
Leeds,
Leeds,
Sheffield, and like that Yorkshire
Leeds
area have really good,
Yeah.
really good music scene. To be fair, but there's a lot, especially like towards Brighton, like the south coast. There's a really good like metal market down there as well. It's where all like Architects and I think what were they called? There was another band from that end that did really well. But Yeah, so that's a pretty big market at the moment as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good metal markets in the UK. I was touring with I Set My Friends on Fire and a metal band from the UK called Confessions of a Traitor, and they were pretty hardcore metal. So we ended up playing the metal scenes, but I loved it. I play like pop rock music, but people were like, "Hey, it's tight," so we're into that. A lot of metal fans are into anything good. It's rare now for metalheads to be only into metal, which is nice. That's why I really respect that scene and that genre.
I don't know how well we'd go down in a metal gig though. I don't think we'd struggle.
we could do it.
I don't think we'd struggle. We'd be all right.
I think you find that like when we performed to metal fans before, they've taken it like really well as it would have been a metal show. But it's mainly the venues that are just like, you're not a metal band, so we don't want you playing here because it's not for the right. But every time we've supported a metal band at a metal venue, it's gone down really well.
But we couldn't never support Cannibal Corpse.
Right. That's a good point, though. It is usually the venue that is like, no, sorry, this is a metal show, or the promoter, no, sorry, like it's a indie pop show. Your pop rock, hard rock, alternative, it won't fit on this show. I found myself constantly like begging for a chance with a lot of these venues and promoters out here. To be like, no, like, don't worry, people will like it. I'll bring my fans. My fans will like it. Don't discourage mixed genre shows. And sometimes it works, especially when they're desperate and they can't find a local band. That's another thing, is when I'm on tour, I'm like, hey, could I get on this show? And they're like, nah, sorry, that band wants all locals. And I'm like, well, I've played this market more than some local bands have. So I should be able to bring out 40, 50 kids. Is that cool? And then, you don't get a reply for 2-3 weeks after follow up. And then eventually some of them cave. So that's another good lesson. Always be persistent. Always follow through. Always be that annoying bug in their ear. They're only going to respect the persistence. And if they get annoyed, they're just having a bad day.
I think we need to relocate to North America, to be fair. It sounds like it's a lot easier on your side. Everyone's just an arsehole over here.
Honestly, my inbox is full of distraught, aggravated promoters, agents, venues. So it's not like everyone's... I try and express this to everyone. Is like, I think it's more of a generational thing if people are nasty online, nasty in their email inbox, or nice, because we have this like really fast evolving technology to our generation, right? So if people don't like what you have to say about a topic, then you're going to get a lot of hate. Whereas you might not have gotten that anger and ugly side of people on Twitter 10, 15 years ago, right? It was a lot more like, what is this platform? People were just more friendly, right? So I feel like we're just in the last 5 years especially have been a very like go away mindset for a lot of venues and promoters in all markets. But when I was in the UK, I was almost a little bit frustrated that it was like, man, this is exactly what it's like in North America right now, where people, will only come to see their friend's band because they're doing their friend a favor and they don't want to see a band that's from another continent. Like, where is the culture shock? Where is that excitement that used to exist in the scene? So, it's all the same everywhere at that time, I feel like, except for maybe like Japan. I don't know. I've never been there, but I hear that people still buy records there and stay for the entire show and welcome touring bands. So maybe it's just like the above the equator that is all in this kind of taking art for granted, and oversaturation is part of it too. There's so many bands, right? So it makes sense that a venue is going to be like, auto response, go away, look at our booking page, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
We're about 50 minutes in here. I think we've had a lot of good topics thrown around all over the place. Sorry, I'm a little bit of an ADD topic jumper.
It's fine.
But thank you guys for taking the time. Thank you for joining me. Congrats on the new single. If you guys want to plug anything, if you want to tell people what the new single's called and where to find you guys.
Yeah, new single's called In a World of My Own. It's out on the 27th of November. It's available on all streaming platforms, Spotify, I can't think what other
Apple
streaming.
Music.
Apple Music, YouTube. We've got a music video that should be out by the time this goes out.
Yeah.
So obviously you can catch that on YouTube. And yeah, hopefully we'll have some gigs soon to start plugging as well.
And if not, more music.
And more music.
More live streams.
More live streams.
Nice. Yeah. So do you guys do the live streams on YouTube or Instagram or just wherever?
It tends to be Facebook.
Yeah.
I think this one for the single on the 27th is going to be a mixture of Facebook, YouTube, and somewhere else. I can't remember what he told me, but we're trying to basically cover all bases and make sure as many people watch it as can.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll post. I'll put the links up on the screen here, and for anyone who's just listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it's at We the North UK on Instagram, and is it We the North Music on Facebook?
I believe so, yeah.
And I believe it's just some like random YouTube link right now. I know that grind.
Yeah.
So just search We the North and any of your songs, but I'll post some links in the description for that as well, so people can just click those links and check out some of your guys' jams and tune in for some of your guys' live streams. And yeah, all the best to you guys. Thanks again for taking the time, and good luck with the release at the end of this month and the rest of your guys' music career.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us. Nice one.
Yeah, cheers, man.
Signing off. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, man.
And there you have it. Another episode of State of My Art podcast in the books. Thank you so much for checking this podcast out. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click the little notify bell if you want to find out about more episodes like this one. Thank you to Vocalese for curing my chronic sore throats. And thanks again to We the North for being on the show. My name is Mike Liorti, and I'll see you next week for another episode of State of My Art Podcast.